Hello, this is Ranger Anna from Longfellow House, Washington's headquarters National Historic Site in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we are celebrating George Washington's birthday. On February 22nd, 1776, General George Washington found himself in this abandoned Tory mansion, his first headquarters of the American Revolution. He was there with his headquarters staff, his military family, and his wife Martha, among other people. We found no evidence that he actually acknowledged or celebrated his birthday that year. Doesn't seem to be so weird for him. Instead, his letters and his orders are filled with a sense of urgency, even anxiousness. He had been in a stalemate with the British Army, who was holed up in the city of Boston, the Continental Army surrounding them in the countryside, and he'd been wanting to attack for over 7 months at this point. This is the Siege of Boston. It's pretty much a stalemate for most of the story. In his letters to Congress, he spends a lot of his time begging for money. There are many, many letters that he personally pens to local colonial governments, asking them for new recruits, for much needed artillery, for weapons. There's another interesting one he writes around his birthday where he confides in his friend, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Reed, and you can see him admitting some of his self-doubt.
I know the unhappy predicament I stand in. I know that much is expected of me. I know that without men, without arms, without ammunition, without anything fit for the accommodation of a soldier, that little is to be done, and that I cannot stand justified to the world without exposing my own weakness and injuring the cause by declaring my wants.
It's not all bad, though, in February 1776. In the previous October, George Washington had received a letter and an original poem from Phyllis Wheatley, who was a previously enslaved Boston woman and now an accomplished poet. Finally, in February, maybe he needed, a little pick-me-up. He wrote back to her, acknowledging the honor that she had done him.
If you should ever come to Cambridge or near headquarters, I shall be happy to see a person so favored by the Muses, and to whom nature has been so liberal and so beneficent in her dispensations. I am, with great respect, your obedient, humble servant.
Also, let's not forget that at the end of January, Henry Knox had arrived from Fort Ticonderoga with cannons in tow. Not just cannons, but that much needed gunpowder, artillery, everything that Washington had been asking for so long. Right before his birthday, he had his last war council meeting in this house, and he urged his generals to attack. His plan was to have his soldiers walk across the frozen Boston harbor to raid the city and the British troops. And his other generals didn't really get behind that plan. So instead, they decided to fortify Dorchester Heights with the cannons that Henry Knox had brought. The goal was to urge the British to leave the city and finally engage in a battle. And it worked. Kind of. The British got in ships to come over to Dorchester Peninsula, but before they could land, a storm came into the harbor and blew them back to the city. Ultimately, 2 weeks after George Washington's birthday, British General Howe said that he would not burn down the city of Boston when the British troops left, as long as Washington didn't bombard him with the cannons. And so the British left on March 17th, 1776, which is still celebrated in New England as a holiday, known as Evacuation Day. That's not bad for your 44th year, George. Washington's 45th year would find him in a winter encampment in Morristown, New Jersey. But that's another video. Happy birthday, George Washington.